and to get us across three key reasons why people are seeking help from a financial advisor at different stages of their lives. Glenn Hare, co-founder of Fox and Hare Financial Advice, joining us now. Glenn, welcome back to the program. Thanks for joining us. All right,
Thanks, Andrew.
I guess key times in your life where you need help, and that might also be stages such as getting married or having a family. But essentially, you've nailed it down to three pivotal points. What are they?
Yeah, so you're 100% right. There's various reasons why people reach out. There's always needs to be a trigger. For a lot of people, there needs to be a trigger, and they're starting a family, getting married, getting a new job, getting a pay rise, getting a bonus. All of these are certainly triggers. But what we've observed is there's really three key reasons why young Australians seek financial advice. The first is around property. The second is around growing and building wealth through investments. And the third is driving towards financial freedom.
All right, so let's get into that. And when you say purchasing property, getting invested, are they mutually exclusive at the moment? I mean, obviously, cost of living, certainly those in their 20s and 30s would be struggling perhaps to achieve both.
Yeah, so there's different ways that we look at property with our members. So certainly the first is purchasing their own home. And in that circumstance, we're looking at government support, government incentives, whether that be the First Home Super Saver Scheme, whether that be stamp duty concessions and the like. We're also having a conversation with the members around when we're talking about property. Is it for that sense of security that you live in that property, or is it more that you've got that property from an investment perspective? So we're having a really good and deep conversation around, should we be looking at this as an investment, so numbers on a spreadsheet, or is this something that we're inevitably wanting to move into? And the other piece that we're seeing come up quite a bit again in relation to property is the question mark around, should we be, if we're wanting to upgrade, is it better to sell and I suppose buy that upgraded property, or is it to kind of, beneficial from a financial perspective to batten down the hatches and go through a significant renovation and really understanding what works out better from a financial perspective?
Yeah, how do you guide them through that process? And may also depend on where you live in the country too, particularly as if you were considered to renovate rather than to sell and then buy again. Certainly it's not cheap, is it?
No, you're 100% right. And it's in conversations around, well, what are the transaction costs associated with buying and selling and then subsequently buying again? How much are we going to need to spend based on where we're located in order to have that property potentially with a growing family that we want to live in? What are renovations going to cost realistically? And there's there's a couple of really great businesses out there that price that really well in terms of understanding, okay, if you choose to do this, what are the likely costs going to be? Touching on my second point, Andrew, around the investment piece. So property is where the conversations potentially start. Then they lean into investments. And to your comment earlier, it doesn't necessarily have to be property, but really understanding what is it that we're investing for. So we want to make sure that our money is working as hard as possible. Are we looking at growth versus income, or are we looking at both? Are we looking at investing in companies that align to us from a values perspective? But also we need to make sure that when we're making investment decisions, we understand the tax implications of those decisions, whether that be investing in our personal name, investing through an investment bond, investing through our super, investing through a family trust, and the like, acknowledging that all investments do obviously have those tax implications that we need to be thinking about, not only when we're trying to get out of the investment, but also as we're going in.
Glenn, I'm just wondering whether perhaps young investors would consider buying an investment property before they actually buy a property as an owner-occupier.
Yeah, definitely. So getting into the market, buying it at a lower price point, renting where they want to live and purchasing a property to then subsequently grow well. It's a strategy that can work really well from a tax perspective, from an investment perspective. Something that we do want to acknowledge, though, is if you do go down the path of purchasing investment property first, we need to be conscious of the time frame associated with if you do want to then subsequently purchase your own home, meaning that the banks will only lend you so much money. So if you want to purchase your family home in the years to come, we just got to be conscious of the level of debt that we take on now for the investment, and as well as potential additional debt that we may need to take on to purchase that family home.
So, Glenn, let's turn to the third reason you mentioned there as to why you would seek financial advice, achieving financial freedom. Now, presumably, this doesn't necessarily mean it comes towards the end of your working career when you're considering retirement.
So this is in terms of our demographic, Andrew. So most of our members are in their 30s and 40s. And I would argue that regardless of what demographic you fall into, financial freedom is something that we are all striving towards. And this is the number one reason. Above property and above getting invested, it was the financial freedom that stood out as the number one across our member base. And the challenge that we have when someone comes to us, or the opportunity, depending on which way you look at it, is working with that member to understand what does financial freedom mean to you. And it means very different things to different people. But often it's around having flexibility in terms of the type of work you do, having the ability to do those things that you enjoy on a weekly, monthly, annual basis. And essentially not being beholden to the paycheck. So making sure that you have more choice in terms of how I suppose you live your life, which is again tied to that sense of freedom.